Hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. And today, on this cloudy and dismal last day of May, I thought I would do a little book haul for you guys. In the approximately 3 weeks since I've been back from college, I have made 3 trips to Barnes & Noble and I purchased 1 order from Book Outlet. So, yeah, I have a little bit of a book buying problem. I'm just in this mood where all I want to do is go purchase books, which is probably not great considering I'm spending a lot of money, but I did find some really great purchases that I thought I would share with you all. The first book that I purchased in the month of May I already mentioned in my Book Unhaul Challenge video, which is linked in the description below in case you haven't seen it yet, and that book is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I love this book so much. I read it during my sophomore year of high school for a project that I was working on, and I just think it is a wonderful book. It also has a special place in my heart because when I was a child, I had these great illustrated classic books, and my favorite one was Pride and Prejudice, also Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. So I read the 2 of those constantly, and I actually unhauled my Great Illustrated Classics version because, you know I'm not going to read a children's version of Pride and Prejudice again, but I really wanted to go out and get my own copy of the original Pride and Prejudice because I don't know if I said this already. If I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry. When I read it sophomore year, I read it from the library, so I have never owned a copy of this book before, even though it is one of my favorite books. Elizabeth is just a role model for me. When I was younger, I wanted to be her. I really based myself off of Elizabeth Bennet and Jo March from Little Women after reading those Great Illustrated Classics. Also, Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy are just literary OTP. Like, I'm obsessed with them. They are relationship goals. And I just really wanted to own this book because I know I am definitely going to reread it at some point, and I just wanted it on my shelf. I had to have a copy of Pride and Prejudice, one of my favorite books of all time. I also love the 2005 movie. I refer to it as my happy movie because whenever I'm in a bad mood, I just watch Pride and Prejudice, and then suddenly my whole day turns around. I just love the story, I love the characters, so I had to own a copy of the original book. So I also knew in the month of May I really wanted to purchase the first book in a fantasy series. When I was younger, I had this idea in my head that I did not like fantasy. I think it was kind of like when you're a kid and you say that you don't like broccoli even though you've never actually tried broccoli. That was basically me with fantasy. I think I had some idea in my head that fantasy was for guys, and I kind of want to yell at my younger self for being so sexist and conformative to gender stereotypes without ever actually giving fantasy a try. But then, this past August, I binged watched all 7 seasons of Game of Thrones, and I'm currently reading the books, and I found out, hey, I actually am kind of obsessed with fantasy, and I think it is amazing how these authors can create these super intricate worlds that don't even exist but feel like they are so real. So I wanted to start another fantasy series, and I looked on BookTube to see what a popular YA fantasy that I might want to read would be, and I decided to purchase An Ember in the Ashes by Zabaa Tahir. Now, what really drew me to this book is that it is set in an empire. From my understanding, it is more Romanesque inspired, whereas a lot of other fantasy series are inspired by medieval Europe or specifically England. So this seemed really different and unique to me. This book is about a girl named Laia whose brother is arrested for treason, and so she teams up with the rebels to infiltrate the military academy and save her brother. At this military academy, she meets Elias, who is a soldier for the Empire, but is actually unwilling, and romance and adventure follow. I really am excited to read this book, but I'm not sure if I want to wait until the entire series comes out so I can binge read it, or if I want to start this now, even though that means I'm going to have to wait to read the rest of the series, because I think book 3 came out this year, and there may be another book after that. I'm not entirely sure. I think there is another one, though, so I don't know if I should wait until all 4 books are out so I can read all of them. But I don't really know. So I might read this soon, or I might hold off on a little bit, but I do think it sounds really exciting, and I really want to read more fantasy books. The next book I purchased in the month of May is the second book in a series, and that is Follow Me by Sara Shepard, which is the sequel to The Amateurs. The Amateur series follows a group of amateur sleuths who all met on a case not closed Unsolved Mysteries message forum, and they decided they were going to get together to solve a cold case. Now, I was not super crazy about The Amateurs. It was definitely not my favorite Sarah Shepard book. However, there was a plot twist at the end that made me think, okay, I guess I have to read the second book now. I've heard mixed reviews about this book, but I am definitely going to read it just to see how the first book is resolved. I don't know if there are more books in the series after this. I'm not sure if I'll pick them up or not, but I did kind of want to see how the cliffhanger from the first book is wrapped up. And yeah, so I purchased it in hardcover, which usually I don't buy books in hardcover, but my last copy of the book is in hardcover, my copy of The Amateurs, and I wanted them to match. So I decided to pay the extra money for hardcover for purely aesthetic purposes. The next book I purchased is Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. I absolutely adore Agatha Christie's mysteries. I read And Then There Were None, which just blew my mind. I devoured that book in 2 days, and I also read her book Evil Under the Sun, which is a Hercule Poirot mystery, as is Murder on the Orient Express. That was given to me as a gift, and I also enjoyed that one as well. So I decided to pick up Murder on the Orient Express because I did watch the movie that they made last year with Johnny Depp in it, and originally I wasn't going to watch the movie because Johnny Depp is kind of a garbage human, but when I was coming back from spring break, flying home from Spain, there were free movies on the plane, and I decided to watch Murder on the Orient Express. I was not super crazy about the movie. I mean, I think it was entertaining enough, but based on how the mystery was resolved, I have a feeling that there were certain hints of foreshadowing from the book they cut out in the movie, which made the ending a little confusing. I was basically watching the movie wondering how Hercule Poirot drew his conclusion, because I think in the original book there was probably more evidence that they cut out of the movie just due to time constraints. So I am hoping that I will enjoy the book more than I enjoyed the movie. I think I probably will, because the 2 Agatha Christie mysteries that I have read have both been amazing. The next book that I purchased in the month of May is A Tyranny of Petticoats, which is an anthology edited by Jessica Spotswood. It is 15 stories of belles, bank robbers, and other badass girls, which just instantly had me hooked because I love female-centric stories. There are stories in this anthology by J. Anderson Coates, Andrea Kremer, Y.S. Lee, Catherine Longshore, Marie Lu, Kelka Magoon, Marissa Meyer, Sandra Mitchell, Beth Revis, Caroline Tung Richmond, Lindsay Smith, Jessica Spotswood, Robin Talley, Leslie Walton, and Elizabeth Wine. And all of these are about women in America throughout American history, and all just feature really badass girls. So I'm super excited to read this, and also because it is a short story collection, I think it will be good for me to read because I can just, read one short story if I don't have a lot of time, or I can read several at once, and hopefully it won't take me too long to finish. I am really excited to start this, so I am probably going to read it in the month of June, and you will see it in my May and June wrap-up video. I decided to combine May and June into one video because due to my finals that I had this month, I didn't read a lot this month, so me making just a May wrap-up video with like 3 books in it would have been kind of boring, so hopefully by the end of June I will have read a lot more, including this book, hopefully. Now, the next 3 books that I purchased this month, I do not have physical copies of yet because I ordered them from Book Outlet and they haven't arrived yet, but I still wanted to include them in this video since I did purchase them in the month of May. This was my first time buying books from Book Outlet. I had never heard of it until I started watching BookTube videos, and I have to say, it is like my new obsession. I got these books on such a great discount. One of them I only paid $3 for, and it was so hard to have self-control because I just wanted to buy like 20 books, and I had to tell myself, no, you can't do that, Jackie, because you're not going to get to these books anytime soon. They weren't even on your to-be-read list until 5 minutes ago when you saw it and decided that you must have it. So I had to exercise some self-control because otherwise I would have bought like 50 books on Book Outlet, and that's kind of a problem. I don't even think I have room for 50 more books right now, so that was a little difficult. First book that I purchased from Book Outlet this month was Even in Paradise by Chelsea Philpott. This follows a girl named Charlotte who meets Julia Buchanan, who is from the wealthy Buchanan family. This family is full of secrets, and Charlotte finds herself becoming consumed by the glamour of their not-so-perfect lives. Now, this book has been compared to The Great Gatsby, which is basically my favorite book of all time. I just love Gatsby, and whenever someone asks me what my favorite book is, that's always what I say. So people comparing it to Gatsby made me instantly want to read it. I also just love reading books about these wealthy but broken families, and I think it just sounds like a really fun summer read, so I'm hopeful I'm going to get to that in the coming months. Also, my stepsister read this book and she really liked it. I would have waited until I visited her in Charleston this summer and borrowed her copy, but when I was on Book Outlet, this book was there for $3.19, so I figured I might as well just buy it since I wanted to read it instead of making myself wait. So these next two books that I purchased from Book Outlet both have to do with my love for medieval British history. However, they are also very, very different from each other. So the first of these two books is The Sun in Splendor by Sharon K. Penman. This is a novel about the life of Richard III, the infamous King of England. Now, I have been obsessed with the War of the Roses and the Tudor era for a very, very long time. When I was younger, I used to read lots of historical fiction books about the Tudors, which just made me become so obsessed with English history. And I've been really interested in Richard III since I watched the White Queen miniseries. I always thought that Richard III was just a cruel hunchback who murdered his nephews. However, he's actually been vilified by history, and while he may have done some things that are unsavory by modern standards, he is not as bad a person as history paints him out to be. I actually read Shakespeare's Richard III play for my Shakespeare class in this past fall semester, and while I thought the play was really entertaining, it definitely spreads a lot of false information since it was written under the Tudor dynasty. And I just really am interested in Richard III, and I wanted to read something that gives a more faithful portrayal of who he was as a person. I don't think he was evil. I think he did do some bad things, as did most people during this era, but I wanted to read something that didn't treat him as a villain, but more of a complex character with good and bad qualities. I have heard glowing reviews about this book. It has 4.4 stars on Goodreads right now. It is also a very long book, so it'll probably take me a while to read it. But, you know, I can always start it and then put it down for a little while if I want to read something else, and I am definitely very excited to have it. It was a very good price on Book Outlet, so I'm super excited about that. Also, I am really excited to see how the romance between Richard III and his wife, Anne Neville, is depicted in this book. Shakespeare depicts Richard as having murdered Anne when actually she probably died of tuberculosis, so I want to see something that depicts their romance more positively, because after watching The White Queen, I really am interested in the relationship the two of them had, and I want to see a nicer, more intimate depiction of their relationship, so I'm super excited to read The Sun in Splendor. So the final book in my haul today is My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jodi Meadows. This is a historical fantasy novel with some satirical elements. It follows Lady Jane Grey, who in real British history ruled as Queen of England for 9 days before she was disposed and beheaded. However, this book aims to give Jane a better ending and also inject the story with some humor and fantasy elements. In this book, set during the Tudor era, some of the nobles actually have the power to transform into animals, and this is known as being an Ethian. And I just heard this book is really fun and really funny, and again, it goes back to my love of the Tudor era. When I was about 12, I actually penned a play about Lady Jane Grey and then performed it for my parents on our staircase. So this goes back to a lifelong interest of mine, and I think because of the satirical elements in it, it is going to be a fun summery read that I can hopefully breeze through and really enjoy. It has very positive reviews, so I am hopeful that I'm going to like it. So, to wrap it up, the books in my May haul are Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, An Ember in the Ashes by Zabaa Tahir, Follow Me by Sarah Shepard, the sequel to The Amateurs, A Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie, A Tyranny of Petticoats, edited by Jessica Spotswood, as well as Even in Paradise by Chelsea Philpott, The Sun in Splendor by Sharon K. Penman, and My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. I am super excited about all of these purchases. Please let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them, if you liked them, didn't like them. Also, if there's any books that you think I should really get to next month that you'd really like to see me read, you can tell me that in the comments as well. I will post a May and June wrap-up at the end of June, so look out for that. And thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. So, thank you so much for watching. Bye!